The strongest of the winds. You can see how this on that radar loop is approaching and getting closer to that area. And you can see where the lightning is with those kind of heavier bands of rain where we've got the bright red, the bright pink. That is that eye wall. It's getting closer to Sanibel, where we are expecting those winds to pick up to over 110, 115, possibly even as high as 130 or 140 miles per hour for those areas. So again, Sanibel, Captiva, up through Charlotte County, we're heading into the worst of it, really beginning within the next 3 hours. This is going to continue as we head into 2, 3, 4 p.m. as it moves inland through those areas. Collier County, you're not going to be dealing with the eye wall most likely, but certainly you have those bands rotating on shore right now. And what you're also seeing, and you can see that with that radar loop, the direction that the winds are most likely taking, kind of lining up with those rain bands, we're seeing those push on shore from the south now through areas like Marco Island, Chokoloskee, Everglades City. That southerly wind is going to continue to push water up. So storm surge is beginning for those areas. We're going to continue to see that throughout the day as the system works its way parallel to the coast and eventually is expected to take that turn to the northeast and even through the overnight hours with that onshore flow on the backside of it continuing.
And Casey, let's actually really quick, if we can take our tower cam. I know it's going in and out a little bit because the wind is so strong. But here, this is in downtown Fort Myers, and you can see the camera shaking because of the wind. Every now and then it'll go black because we'll lose connection. But I want to ask you, Casey, you know, for those people who are hunkering down, they're at home, they're going to start to feel possibly the effects of the eye wall, and they're probably thinking, how much longer do I have to go through this? What should we expect once we do start to feel those? How long are we going to hear these effects of that?
So it's moving at about 9 miles per hour, that center. It's not going to be the fastest moving system. I would say for the eye wall, it's ranging about 25 miles deep. So you could be feeling that, and that's about tornado, that's likely rather about equivalent to tornado force winds, tornado-like winds. You could be feeling that for at least about a solid, I would say, half hour, 45 minutes, even to an hour. You could see those winds range, I would say, anywhere between 80 to up to and over 120 miles per hour for an hour across that area. So those are tornado-like winds for a prolonged period of time, which is why we are saying you need to find that interior room just as you would in any kind of tornadic situation, and just really just bunker down there for that period that the eye wall is passing through.
Casey, thank you. We're going to have you stay with us. I believe we're going to try again with our phone line system and have Acting Deputy Director with NOAA, Michael Brennan, join us. Michael, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. We have people tuning in from all over Southwest Florida. We have a lot of residents that come down in the winter months. Some listening, some able to watch us. What is your main message as we have this Ian pulled up, Hurricane Ian, on our Wink 3X Doppler right now? What is your main message to anyone watching or listening right now?
This is the time to get in your safe place. We're going to see the leading edge of the eye wall of Ian start to impinge on the coast there of Sanibel Island, Captiva, into the Fort Myers area in the next few hours. And with that, we're going to see that catastrophic wind damage. We're going to see the catastrophic storm surge, inundation of up to 16 feet above ground level. We're talking about places like Sanibel, Captiva, Cape Coral, into Fort Myers, up the Caloosahatchee River, Bonita Beach, in that area. That's just going to be life-threatening storm surge with catastrophic damage. We're going to have, damaging winds on top of the storm surge. So if you're in one of those storm surge evacuation zones and you haven't left, this is your last chance to get out and try to save your life.
And we typically give a range as far as that storm surge goes, and a lot of times that range kind of indicates the at least upper level of the reasonable worst case scenario. Where do you think that storm surge is going to be on that range of 12 to 16 feet that we currently have forecasts for that coast of Charlotte and Lee County?
Yeah, I mean, in that area, we're looking at something close to the high end because we're seeing an intensifying hurricane, right at the threshold of Category 4, Category 5. with a large area of those intense winds. It's going to drive that storm surge into that area. So it doesn't matter if it's 12 or 16 feet. That's enough to drown any person. It's enough to make any place you're staying in a storm surge evacuation zone unsafe.
And Michael, we've heard our meteorologists say this is kind of like the perfect storm. The elements all lined up for this. Can you kind of go through what had to have happened for this particular storm to grow this large and then to make its path mirroring Hurricane Andrew?
Yeah, I mean it's a storm that unfortunately yesterday, as it started to strengthen, went through what we call an eye wall replacement cycle, where the inner core sort of dissipated and we got this larger eye wall, and then the storm still had enough time to re-intensify overnight and early this morning. That's going to lead it right up into landfall. And so now you have essentially a larger, more powerful hurricane than you had this time yesterday, and that just exacerbates the impacts from storm surge and increases the area that's going to see those devastating hurricane force winds. And it's pretty much a worst case scenario for Southwest Florida today.
Yeah, Michael, thank you for that. And I apologize, mirroring the track of Hurricane Charlie,
right.
This track has mirrored so closely, which it was very, scary to see that it could take that almost exact track.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we talk about storm surge being just kind of the most concerning thing with this, with that kind of track. So we know the storm surge, it's going to start to rise, Michael, here as we head towards the afternoon. But with that kind of onshore flow continuing, even as the system departs to the north and east, when do you expect improvements for those water levels to start to go down along the coast of Charlotte and Lee County?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell, but I mean, I could think, as you noted, there's going to be that persistent onshore flow that's going to last well into tonight and over to Thursday. So I think we're going to be looking at elevated water levels, especially for those areas where the water pushes well inland, could last certainly into well into Thursday.
All right, Michael Brennan, Acting Deputy Director of NOAA. We really appreciate your time and give us that great perspective of what you guys are looking at there at NOAA.
Thanks so much. Be safe.
And I think we're going to turn now over to, if we can, anchor Taylor Petrus, who is continuing to get new video in. If we can pop up our live touch, she put out an all call to safely, if you can, bring in and send in new video. And you guys have really answered that call as long as you can safely do so. So Taylor, where are you starting?
Okay, so this first video is from St. James City, which we know is an evacuation zone there on Pine Island. This is from just 15 minutes ago. This looks like a security camera on a home, but it gives us a good view of the water there behind us as well, showing those white caps, which we typically don't see here in Southwest Florida, unless, of course, we do have those strong winds that we get with those strong storms. Other ones we're getting in, Wink News reporter Michael Hudak just tweeted this out from North Naples, and take a look at this. That is some strong wind pushing those palm trees, pushing that rain completely sideways at the moment. So again, that was just about 5 to 10 minutes ago from Michael. Lehigh Acres, we're starting to get some flooding in Lehigh Acres. So let me see where this is exactly. This is at Lee Boulevard and Alvin Avenue. And if you see here on that roadway, that is covered with water right now. I got another picture from a viewer also in Lehigh Acres showing flooding. I was working to get that on for you as well. Going over into Lee County, this is a look at Gateway. Starting to see some of those winds come through as well. I have a good aerial view of Wiggins Pass. Let's see if we can make this video big. Hard to see, but that's because that wind is just carrying that rain so heavily. I mean, it is hard to see much through there, but it is a good aerial view. You see the water on the bottom there also getting pushed by that wind.
Wow.
And when we do these kind of coverage, we try to position our reporters in safe places, but throughout Southwest Florida, so we get a sense, because it happens in increments, right? And everyone has something different. So we'd like to check in with reporter Gail Levy, who has an update for us from Marco Island.
So we just got out of the hotel briefly. We're not even a mile away. And as soon as we got outside, we could tell the conditions outside were deteriorating. I mean, we even drove down the street not far away again, and we saw one of these, the stop and go signs for when you're walking that has just been completely blown over. And we're getting a lot of those bands of rains. They're kind of coming in gusts. they'll either be pushing the car really hard or whatnot, but we haven't seen anybody out on the road. As a matter of fact, we've seen some heavy equipment out there that Marco Island already has in place to clean up any debris after the storm. But right now we can't tell. The winds are starting to pick up and the conditions are deteriorating. Actually, a stoplight just went out behind us, so we're going to go ahead and go back to the hotel and we'll keep you guys updated from there.
All right, that was Gail Levy. Gail, thank you. Let's transition now to Liz Byro, who is at Vanderbilt Beach. Liz, can you describe for us, for those who are even listening, what the conditions are like where you are on that balcony?
Well, the wind is incredibly strong right now. It will just come in massive bursts, and the trees, not just even the fronds, but the whole entire trunks will just start shaking. Now, something interesting just a few moments ago, and actually we can hear the sirens now. There was an emergency vehicle, I believe a fire vehicle, that just drove by. Now, this is the only car that I have seen, and I've been out here since midnight, and it happened to be, again, an emergency vehicle. We'll keep you updated on that. But one more thing that, this might be something positive to point out. Over here, there's this large pool or puddle of water, if you will. Now, this is the largest I've seen it, but earlier in the morning, I'd say around 1, 2 a.m., I did see a puddle like this. Now, then again, at 3 or 4, there was no puddle. So that tells me that this draining system is working properly. Like I said, obviously the puddle is back, the pool of water is back, but hopefully that will drain quickly, and that is something positive to note. Live in Naples, Liz Byro, Wink News.
Yeah, stay safe out there, Liz. Here's going to be the very latest on Wink Live Doppler 3X. As you can see, the well-defined eye as well as eye wall. And here is where we will have those winds over 100 miles an hour. Now, this is not always the case, but sometimes a sign of a strengthening major hurricane is where you have lightning that has been popping up, and that has been the case, especially not only around the northeastern eye wall, but even on the south side as it is wrapping around the core. And the pressures have been falling ever since last night, a sign of a strengthening hurricane. So let me show you the stats as of the 8 o'clock advisory. We get the next one in at 9. It will be every single hour. And the situation that we have at hand is a worst case scenario for Southwest Florida. The winds are at 155 miles an hour, and the pressure has lowered to 937 millibars. For us, this is as serious as it gets. This is going to be a significant impact in our area in one of the strongest storms for Southwest Florida in recent times. The storm surge projections are going to be very legitimate and very crippling for our area, as we will see 155 miles an hour of wind-driven force bringing up our tides as we go throughout the afternoon and evening hours. So you still have some time to prepare. Mentally prepare yourself, but also take care of your family as well as your friends if you are hunkering down together. So this is almost a Category 5. I want to show you what we call the Sapphire-Simpson scale. It's the 1 to 5 scale for the hurricanes. And where we are at right now is 155, 2 miles an hour and greater. We're at Category 5. That is the caliber to how powerful this storm is, and it still has been strengthening. This is literally going to be one of the worst storms that we have seen in recent memory for our area. I cannot stress enough the seriousness of this situation. The hardest hit will be Lee, Charlotte, and Sarasota County. You need to be mentally prepared for the likelihood that you will be without power for days, if not weeks. So now is the time to prepare. Let's take a look at where some of those winds are. And before I even show that, I want to show some of the highest wind speeds that I have been getting in, and this is very preliminary. The eye wall hasn't even impacted Southwest Florida yet, and it hasn't even pushed on shore. So here's the early look for some of the highest gusts. Pelican Bay, 71 miles an hour. Isla Capri, 67. Naples at 62. Marco Island, 61. Captiva at 60. The Cape at 55. Venice at 55. And then 54 for Punta Gorda and 49 in Fort Myers. But that's not even the worst part of the storm. Those winds were produced from, and I'll show you it here on Wink Live Doppler 3X. It's one of the outer bands, this one right here, that is pivoting around Ian. So we can assume that we have 50 to 70 mile per hour wind from Collier County and now pushing into Lee County, and that eventually rotating around into Charlotte County. I want to switch back over to show you some of the wind speeds that are being analyzed. And I'm going to be, if you're wondering what we're looking at here, this is the periphery of Wink Live Doppler 3X. Now we're also going to throw on some other radars, including one out of Tampa. Now granted, Tampa is far enough away, but I want to show you some of the wind speeds that the radar is analyzing. All the bright colors, that is wind going in one direction, wind going in another, and analyzing some of these wind speeds, especially on the western side. They are right now being detected at 155 miles an hour. So the National Hurricane Center forecast cone is legitimate. The stats are being confirmed right now with Doppler estimates of the winds offshore of about 155 miles an hour. And that is what's going to be pushing into southwest Florida. So now let's switch back over to radar. Okay, and I want to time this out, when you can expect that eye wall. And it's getting close now. It's starting to approach Sanibel and Captiva. I would say the worst part of the storm, it's right here. So here's going to be the worst part of the storm. Note the lightning, and I want to measure how far away it is from the coastline. So from Sanibel and Captiva, it is currently about 19 miles away. The system is pushing to the north-northeast at about 9 to 10 miles an hour. So I am going to input that speed into the radar. Okay, we're going to clear out the distance tracker, and then I'm going to do a storm cone going into time, showing you who's going to get it, and then also at what various times. So let's draw this on the graphic, and I'm going to put it right here. Okay, and then we are going to extend this out to the north and northeast, because that's going to be the general location. So here's going to be some of the timing for first up. This is not the landfall, but the expectation of the worst part of the storm. So for Sanibel, because it's moving at about 9 to 10 miles an hour, time now is about 8:45. As we approach the 10 to 11 window, that is when the eye wall, worst part of the storm, the most destructive, is going to start to move in. Then next up is going to be Cape Coral. And very likely the system is probably picking up on Southwest Cape first. So Southwest Cape, as we hit about 11:30 to the lunchtime hour, Page Field and around Colonial and Tamiami Trail, likely the time between noon and 1 when we see the eye wall. And as we know, it's not just one eye wall. This is going to be circling around. So we get the eye wall, then a break, and then we get the secondary eye wall after that. So this is just round number 1. Fort Myers as a whole, downtown, including right here at Wink, 12:30 to about 1 o'clock, and then Port Charlotte. Get mentally prepared for tornado-like winds as we approach between the 1 to 2 o'clock hour, and I would also cluster Punta Gorda in that time frame as well. So about 1:30 to 2 o'clock at the current rate of speed that the eye wall, the strongest part of the storm right here, is going to be pushing to the northeast. Lindsay and Corey, we're getting the scans as we speak, and we should get another update from the National Hurricane Center in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
All right, Matt, thank you. And we'll be checking in with you shortly then. I'd like to try to get back to Collier County Commissioner Rick LaCastro, who's joining us over the phone. He lives on Marco Island. He's staying there. He was also there during Hurricane Irma. Good morning, Commissioner LaCastro. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been following your report all night long.
Oh, well, hopefully you're staying safe. First of all, just kind of walk us through what the last few hours have been like for you there on Marco.
Well, if you didn't live through Irma, I mean, it looks very serious, and it is. Irma was different in the way of wind. I mean, we have a lot of gusts here. I mean, I was in the same house. I lost my pool cage immediately. Water immediately came over the seawall. So, everyone who lived through it knows Irma was serious. But just like Matt's saying on the news, this is a different storm, and I've been trying to get that word out to my constituents. I mean, I'm the commissioner of District 1, and it really includes most of the worst low-lying areas Marco, Goodland, Isles of Capri, Port of the Islands, Henderson Creek. I mean, all those areas that are beautiful and nice, but are at very, very low levels. A lot of those people did evacuate, but a lot also didn't. I mean, I'm in walkie-talkie contact with about 400 people that are on Marco Island, and I think there's even more than that. So, but the difference is, right now we're seeing the strong gusts, and that's significant. I mean, I'm looking out my window, and we're trickling about an hour away from low tide. But I can tell you the water in my canal is much higher than what I would normally see during this time. So I'm really heeding what Matt is saying, which is basically this is a different storm, and the height of the water exacerbated by high tides. I mean, it's anybody's guess what it's going to look like. I can tell you for Irma, it immediately came up over my seawall. Dock was totally underwater, came all the way up my backyard, and was just a couple of feet from basically coming into my house, and that was Irma. So I have some really concerns, not just for me, but for, all of my constituents, not only in District 1, but the county. But, what it looks like now is serious gusts, but I think the water is what we are all watching, especially experienced people that have lived here for a while. We can already tell the water movement is different.
Right. And Commissioner, what we're looking at here on the screen is, and if people are listening to us, it's the video that you recorded on your cell phone showing the dock in your backyard, the waterway there. And you say that the water is rising pretty quickly. Do you believe that your dock will be underwater?
Oh, absolutely. It was underwater immediately for Irma. And as everybody's saying, this is worse than Irma when it comes to storm surge. And I have one of the original Deltona homes on Marco, as do a lot of people. So I'm only about 8 or 9 feet at elevation. So when you say worst case scenario, 10, 11, 12, 13 feet, I mean, even during Irma, when we were believing the double-digit surge, I was prepared to have several feet of water, in my house and to deal with it. I mean, I'm a retired Air Force colonel, and I've been in more dangerous places than this. I can trust you. I can assure you that doesn't take away from this seriousness. But, I'm in touch with the right people. And also, too, this is my district. So, I'm not going to jump in a car and drive to Orlando and stay in phone contact, because when this storm is over, much like Irma, there's a lot of work to do. But no question about it, my dock will be underwater very quickly. And then, with Irma, the water, it moved at, sort of a slow to medium pace up the backyard, and then it sort of stalled right before it sort of got closer to the steps of my pool deck in my house. I really feel like this is going to be a totally different animal. And even though the eye is going to be well north of us, if we're believing, that we're on the dirty end and the back end of the surge, I mean, you can just look at the map and see that water is going to be rushing in here at a violent pace. So I expect to see the same thing we saw from Irma, but exponentially worse, and I believe faster. That was the thing about Irma. The water rose, but you watched every inch of it. I think this is just going to be much more aggressive.
Right.
Yeah. Sir, I just wonder, first of all, how long have you lived on Marco?
I moved here in 2012 when I retired after 24 years being in the Air Force. So I retired as a colonel, and I was the base commander of some pretty big bases, Eglin Air Force Base, and we got hit with several tropical storms and tornadoes there, and other bases that got hit with big snowstorms.
So
working with emergency preparedness is something I'm very familiar with. Dan Summers is doing an outstanding job in Collier County and is staying in contact with all the commissioners regularly. So, I feel well plugged in, and I have, maybe above average equipment from the average citizen to stay linked and whatnot. So, it's part of the job.
And you get that sense talking to you, kind of running through all the things. I just kind of wonder, how are you feeling right now?
Well, I mean, I live in paradise, same as you all. So whether you live in Babcock Ranch, like Matt is saying, or you live on Marco or Isles of Capri, this is the trade-off. I mean, we get to enjoy amazing sunsets. I've sat out on that dock 1,000 times and loved every minute of it. And I've lived all over the country, all over the world, from my military time. But this is the trade-off. The one thing I can tell you about hurricanes, having lived through some tornadoes when I was stationed in Nebraska, is you don't get much warning for those. So here, when you guys do a great job telling people to evacuate or prepare or have a kit, I saw some disastrous things in the Midwest where people were just on their way to work, and then all of a sudden, they went back to their neighborhood and it was totally wiped out. It looked like a war zone. So it's not to say these aren't serious, but having the warning and the increased technology, I was just telling somebody on the phone a little bit ago, it was only a few years back where you didn't get this kind of, I'm watching Matt explain where tornadoes are. I mean, he'd be the first one to tell you years back, that was a guesstimate. And now hearing the level of detail, is extremely helpful, but of course it can't prevent it. It can only just give you the warning, but that certainly saves a lot of lives.
Well, Commissioner Rick LaCastro, we appreciate you making time to join us this morning. Hopefully you and the 400 others who are all communicating via walkie-talkie stay safe, and we are hoping for the best for everyone in that community. Also to say thank you for your service.
Of course, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. And we have a lot to do. Like you say, even when this is over, that's when you realize what a great community this is. But we're like Matt was saying, maybe we're in the fourth inning now. Hopefully, I'll be happy when we get sort of towards the end, and if we're all dry. But stay in touch with me. I feel like I'm connected to the right folks, and I've been in public service my whole life, so I guess that's why I'm sort of used to this a little bit, but it still doesn't take away the seriousness of it.
Well, Commissioner, thank you again, and thanks for talking to us. Stay safe out there. We really appreciate your time this morning. We're going to switch gears now to Taylor Petras. You're actually getting in video, Taylor, of flooding on some roadways, and you're also getting new numbers on power outages across the area.
Yeah, Corey, Week News reporter Michael Hudak, he is on the move. I showed you some video from North Naples he tweeted. This is new video of him driving to Vanderbilt Beach, and you see the windshield wipers going, and then that water starting to pool on the side of the road. I also just got this video from Mike Fenton in Cape Coral. This is at Tropicana and Northwest 24th Avenue. Take a look at this. These are roadways that are just covered with water. That intersection covered in water here in Cape Coral. We know parts of Cape Coral do flood more than others, so you want to pay attention. You really shouldn't be heading outside, but if you can safely take video from inside, please show us what you're seeing near your home. And since we are seeing all of this rain and wind activity, of course, we were expecting power outages today. This is a really good tool. This is the Florida Power Outages Map website. Does a really good job of breaking down county by county of what is out of power. I want to start down in Collier County, though, since they kind of got the first impacts of Hurricane Ian. Collier County, for both Florida Power and Light customers, it is saying 28,000. Florida Power and Light customers are without power right now. Another about 4,500 LCEC customers also without power. So about 32,000 people in Collier County right now without power. Keep in mind, folks, they have to wait until after it is safe for the storm to pass for them to then go out to try to restore your power. So please be patient with them. Taking a look through Lee County, where it is starting to move in. Actually, we're in Charlotte County. Florida Power and Light, we have about 5,000. Hasn't made it that far high yet. We're getting some video in. Impacts aren't as great. We're starting to see that reverse storm surge up there, but the power outages are minimal at the time, but we're going to keep an eye on that. Going back down to Lee County, Florida Power and Light, 13,000 customers right now without power. LCEC, they're reporting about 10,000 outages as well, for about 23,000 total outages. We're going to keep an eye as, of course, Hurricane Ian continues to move up the coast.
All right, Taylor, thank you for that. I believe we have some pictures coming in from a possible tornado in Lehigh Acres. Trees were down from the high burst of winds. Do we have? Here we go. You can look at that. These are large trees, too, just toppled over.
And you can see here, I think, Corey, you need to get new batteries, that microphone. Trees down there. This is at 5th Street. If you're familiar with this area in Lehigh Acres, that's right behind the Dollar General. And that's just our first look. And now this video is showing the National Guard. This video was taken yesterday, so Tuesday, and our crew spotted what they thought was the National Guard standing by. They go out throughout the state, throughout the area where they believe there's going to be impact, so they're ready to respond once it's clear. And that is, in fact, what they did. 5,000 Florida National Guardsmen activated, 2,000 from other areas, 3 different states, Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. That was all done well before Ian was on our coastline. And that's so they can go out with those high-profile vehicles and they can do any kind of rescue efforts need to be done, deliver water, blankets. They know that after the storm is really when their work gets started, and it can be a long one.
And that's when we really need their help too. And if you're hunkering down, we've said this before, if you feel alone, you feel like no one is out there, there are people that are pre-staged. So when the storm passes, they will try to get to you as quickly as possible. Let's go out to Week News reporter Gail Levy, who is live on Marco Island. I believe she's with us through the phone. Gail, we know the conditions where you were getting very windy, very wet. What is it like? Describe as best as you can where you are.
Don't have access to get out onto a balcony, but I can tell you these gusts of wind are really strong. I know for a fact I would not be able to stand up in them. Actually, maybe 30 minutes ago, I saw 4 guys run outside. They looked like they might work for a power company, and they immediately turned around and ran back inside because the gusts of wind were so strong. I was watching them hold their jackets and their shirts to make sure they weren't blowing off. But you know what's also interesting out here is normally you see a lot of the down palm fronds that are already dying on the tree. Well, outside of here, there's a lot of those still like fresh live palm fronds that are already blowing off, which always hold on to the tree a little bit better. But there is definitely so much wind here already. And it looks like you guys might have gotten some video from me. I'm not sure if we're able to pull that up, but I do have some shots from Marco Island. Earlier, we were driving down Collier Boulevard, and sure enough, we saw like one of the stop signs blow over for when you're crossing the street, you know, where you'll see the little guy walking or the hand up, and that was blown right over. I mean, I've never seen anything like that, and I covered Hurricane Michael in 2018 when it hit the Panhandle, and that's when we saw some really strong winds over there. These are obviously, to me, from what I can tell, they look very comparable to that. These trees are really just blowing really hard in the wind. And when we were driving around Marco Island too, they did have some heavy equipment, some heavy machinery already set up. So it looks like they're ready to go move any debris out of the way, which is always a good sign for people. And I was just checking the Twitter for the city of Marco Island right now. It looks like there are 4,000 residents that don't have power out here on the island. They did say LCEC is already pre-staged and they'll respond when it's safe. But right now out here, guys, you still see those huge gusts of wind.
Yeah, Gail Levy, we appreciate you joining us by the phone. I'm so glad you're safe because before she was cruising around, it wasn't safe to do that anymore. So she came inside and joined us by the phone. So we appreciate it. And the wind there, still for every now and then, but then those big gusts will come through, making it very unsafe.
We'd like to get over to Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt now. He's getting that 9 o'clock advisory. Matt, we had a viewer just email in, Jay, saying, would you recommend, does he still have time to remove his lanai screens from the pool to try to prevent them totally being destroyed? What are your thoughts on that?
Repeat that for me one more time?
He's wondering if he still has time to go out to the pool cage and remove the screens. That way they're not destroyed to create that airflow here.
This is a last case resort here. What you want to do with the pool cage, if you're going to lose the cage, you're going to lose your cage. But what I recommend in this case is during Irma, we had people that were cutting their screens, and then turns out they didn't have significant damage to the cage except for them cutting their screen. So what I would recommend, if you have enough time, and literally the window of time is quickly wrapping up, and I would even say doing it now is pushing it, but I'm going to discourage it. But if you do, I would take off the doors, and that will try to reduce the pressure in the cage. So my recommendation would be to take out the doors, don't cut the screens, but even that, the time for the preparation is done. We need to be hunkering down. We need to be staying inside. Here is the 9 o'clock update. We will be getting these every single hour. The max winds are at 155 miles an hour. It is almost a Category 5. The pressure at 937 millibars as it is pushing to the north-northeast at 10 miles an hour. I just got an update. The storm surge levels have increased in Naples from 2 to 3 feet. And that trend will continue from 3 to 4. And every single update that I get, I will let you know. But that has increased now to 3 feet in Naples. If you're just waking up and just joining us, and I hope you're able to get some sleep overnight. This is the brand new forecast for storm surge according to the National Hurricane Center. They have Lee County south, so primarily the Lee and Collier County line south, and mainly Collier, about 7 to 11 feet of a storm surge potential. Then in the areas in pink and purple, Lee County, Charlotte County, a water level rise maxing out at 12 to 16 feet, literally life-threatening. If you are watching me or listening to me in South Cape Coral, this storm is approaching, and this is the type of surge that is going to go up the Caloosahatchee. I cannot stress enough how serious this situation is. It does not get any more serious than this. This is a worst-case scenario and one of the strongest storms that Southwest Florida has ever seen in recent memory. It's almost a Cat 5. It's going to be making landfall at high tide, and it's going to be making landfall in a corridor of our coastline that is going to be drawing the surge up the river. So I just want you to be mentally prepared for that. I don't want there to be any surprises and unknowns with this storm. I do want to do a radar check, and then what we'll do in a bit is toss it over to Casey Sherman, and she's going to guide you through the next couple of hours. So here is going to be the eye and the eye wall, and I am seeing lightning that has been indicated on the north as well as the southern side, but there it is. As it is now, let's do a distance tracker from Sanibel, and I would say at the moment, the eye wall is only 16 miles away now. The system is pushing north-northeast at about 9 to 10 miles an hour, so it will be approaching Sanibel within the next, it's about 9:04 right now, I would say within the next hour or two. Thank you, Lenny. We do have an update. I'm going to punch this back up. The National Hurricane Center has now increased the storm surge forecast from 12 to 16 feet to now 12 to 18 feet. So this is no longer 12 to 16, it is 12 to 18 feet. We will be modifying that forecast. Then from Bonita Beach to Everglades City, previously 7 to 11, now 8 to 12. So that is the new, brand new, just came in from the Hurricane Center. 12 to 18 for the area in the pink and purple. And then for Collier County, so that's for Lee and Charlotte, and then for Collier County, your new storm surge forecast is going to be 8 to 12 feet. So now let's go back over to Wink Live Doppler 3X in our radar network. And I want to show you some of the winds that are right now being analyzed just offshore and within the eye wall. We're going to switch back over to radar. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using various radars that can see this storm. And there it is. So I know the colors, it's kind of a little trippy looking, I agree, but let's sample where I do believe some of the strongest winds right now are. And it is actually this corridor right here. That is the corridor, the worst part of the storm, that is going to be heading to the northeast. And let's sample some of the winds that are right now being picked up on radar. Upwards of 150 to 155 miles an hour. That is right now offshore of Sanibel and Captiva. Let's do a distance. It's about 50 miles off the coast, that type of wind. So let's switch now back over to radar, as well as the track. And I think this is very important. I want to take this opportunity. I'm going to draw some lines to show you where the eye wall is going to be going with that type of wind potential. So let's take the northern periphery of the eye wall, and then we'll extrapolate it out, and then we'll do the same thing on the southern side. And this is essentially the corridor of greatest wind. So this corridor, from essentially a line from Fort Myers Beach towards Buckingham, Babcock Ranch, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, obviously Charlotte County, Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, Northport in it, Rotunda, Englewood. This is going to be tornado-like winds. The difference, obviously the difference between a tornado is that, unlike for a few seconds, this is going to last for a couple hours of strong damaging wind. As it will be making landfall anywhere within this corridor, I would say the greatest likelihood would be Boca Grande for a landfall. Could go as far south as Sanibel, as far north as Englewood, but the highest concentration, according to the computer models, is around Placida and Boca Grande for a landfall as we hit this afternoon, which also is high tide. So Casey, I know, has been analyzing what we are going to expect as we go into time, and she's going to guide you through it hour by hour for what you can expect for the remainder of today. Casey?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And that the current radar image matches up pretty well with this particular computer model. So this is a good indicator of what we're going to be looking at here down the road, as Matt just timed out to you. That eye wall approaching areas like Sanibel, Captiva, that could happen here within the next about couple of hours or even an hour or so. We could start to see some of those strongest of the hurricane force winds within that eye wall, where it is now nearly a Category 5, push onshore to Sanibel and Captiva. This is 10 a.m. We start to see that eye wall approaching. This is going to be picking up. Winds are picking up already at that point in time when you're getting into that eye wall for the Cape Hayes Peninsula within about the next hour here, and beginning to push onshore to areas like Cape Coral. This is 11:30. We're starting to see that eye wall now push onshore to Sanibel, Punta Rassa, up through portions of the Pine Island Sound. This is portions of western Cape Coral within about the next hour and a half, and out through portions of Placida and also Rotunda. Here we go, advancing another hour. We're starting to see this system, at least the center of it, push onshore to those coastal zones, Sanibel, Captiva, Cayo Costa. You're going to start to feel those winds actually subside at that point in time as you get into the eye of this system. Meanwhile, we've got some of the strongest of the winds at that point in time. This takes us by 12:30, pushing into the Fort Myers area, up through Babcock Ranch, up through Port Charlotte, and up through areas like Englewood, southern Sarasota County, and the Northport area. Another hour in time. Here we go. We're looking at the eye wall right about here, where you see these winds calm down for the time that you're in the eye wall. Again, you've got, or rather the eye, notice you've got another eye wall that's just following close behind that. And then we've got the eye wall then moving through areas like Fort Myers, down through Fort Myers Beach at that point in time, over portions of I-75, Port Charlotte, and then we continue to see this eye progress inland, where it's going to be around somewhere in about Charlotte County, maybe northern Sarasota County. This is 3 p.m. with the second part of the eye wall then moving into Captiva, Sanibel, Pine Island, and again, another round here for the Fort Myers area in Lee County with the strongest of the winds out of the system, where those gusts could be over 120, 130, 140 miles per hour. This is 3 o'clock. Here we go through 4 o'clock. We see this progress off to the north and east a bit more, moving into areas like DeSoto County, Arcadia. You'll start to feel that eye wall at that point in time, the strongest of the winds at that point in time. You need to be in your safe location in an interior room with tornado-like winds moving through your area. We're getting a second round of the eye wall at that point in time, 4 o'clock for the Cape Hayes Peninsula, Rotunda, Placida, El Jabin, up through areas like Englewood, Minnesota Key, and out through then a second round, still persisting for portions of North Cape Coral, North Fort Myers, and we continue to see these stronger winds still also out through Collier County, but not as bad as the eye wall that's going to be pushing through Lee, Charlotte, Sarasota, and then DeSoto County. Here's 5 p.m. as we take you into the late afternoon evening time frame. There is that eye center moving through DeSoto County at that point in time. We continue with an offshore wind, winds not as strong at least as what you dealt with in the eye wall, beginning to lighten up for Sanibel, Captiva, and out through Fort Myers, the Port Charlotte area. As it progresses out of DeSoto County, there is about 7 p.m. Here's 8:30, and then begins to move away from us as we head into the overnight time frame. But we're going to continue to still deal with this onshore flow, which is still going to be bringing us the potential for storm surge through the overnight time frame, and it's going to prevent that tide from going back out. But we will start to see likely Some of the rain lighten up as we head into late tonight and tomorrow. Still, though, on the backside of the system, we're going to be looking at some gusty winds through tomorrow and still be dealing with some ongoing storm surge even into your Thursday.
All right, Casey, thank you. We'd like to get out live to one of our reporters on Fort Myers Beach. I believe Michael Hudak joining us now. And Michael, where exactly are you and how are the conditions there?
I am at the corner of Estero Boulevard and Gulf Drive. Listen, Southwest Florida is paradise, but we are looking at and living in the trade-off. This is some of the price that we pay. You can see that street light is dangling for dear life. We kind of witnessed it collapse a little bit. We were driving towards Fort Myers Beach from our hotel on Vanderbilt Beach, and we saw that thing kind of collapse. So pull over. Let's show everybody this. You can see some of the flooding in some of those near parking lots over there. The wind gusts are strong. The rain is coming down sideways. This is a situation where if you don't have to be outside, don't be outside. But you know, we're going to seek shelter as soon as we're done with this live shot. But I mean, I had to show this to you guys. You can see it dangling for life right here, and we're not even, witnessing the worst part of this storm yet. So this is a situation we are actively monitoring. The good news is a lot of people are adhering to staying indoors. We haven't really seen a lot of cars, etc. We're going to get back in the car and go to safer ground for right now. Reporting on Estero Boulevard, Michael Hudak, Wink News.
All right, Michael, thank you. And you can hear the power of that wind in the microphone. You can really hear it through that live shot. So again, Michael, thank you. We're going to go now to Claire Galt, who is she's not on Sanibel, but she's at a hotel right before the Sanibel Causeway. She's overlooking Sanibel Island. Claire, first of all, how are you? You've been with us for hours now, and what is it like where you are?
I'm doing well. I'm staying in place. I'm getting ready, but first of all, I think you need to listen to this. This is very important. So the city of Sanibel just sent us some new information. And first of all, they're telling us, and Matt's telling us, the worst of Ian, the worst of this storm is supposed to hit Sanibel at 10 a.m. Now, the city sent me this message. I have it here on my phone. I'm going to read you some points that I think you really need to take note of. Number one, at this time, everyone must shelter in place. That means the time has passed to make any more preparations. You have to stay where you are and you have to stay put. It's incredibly important. Number two, a precautionary boil water advisory is in effect today. You need to follow that. Now, if you've been watching our newscast, you've heard me talk about the wind. You've heard me talk about the rain. Now, right now, this wind is the worst we've seen it since we've been here today. Now, we've been here since midnight. Haven't seen it like this yet. I'm going to show you. Jack, let's go over here and show them. I want you to start with the water. I want you guys to look at the water. If we zoom in, you can see how much the wind is really affecting that water. I hope it comes across on camera, but you can see that it's actually a different color than it was earlier this morning. Waves are crashing. It's a little scary looking out there in the water. Now the trees, they've been blowing all day, but now we're really starting to see them, go from this to this. We've been seeing it all morning, but it's really, really picking up. And then when we talk about the wind, I know I've told you about the doors, how they've been slamming. At this point, they actually had to prop it open because they've been slamming so much, and we're feeling rain and we're feeling wind hit us sitting inside there. And it's not just the store, it's all over the hotel. So right now we're gonna stand by, we're gonna wait it out, we're gonna keep you guys updated, and we're just gonna wait for the worst of it, which is about to come. And we're gonna let you know what happens. We'll be here right there with you. Live in Sanibel, Claire Galt, Wink News.
And that is the right move, to stay where it's safe. Claire, thank you for that. And anyone listening, when she said the trees going from this to this, she was showing upright, vertical, to then parallel with the ground, laying down on the ground. A very powerful image to picture there. Yeah,
and what's even more powerful is just to see, really, this storm is not that far, the eye, not that far off our coastline. And you're taking a look behind us at Wink's live Doppler 3X. And that eye is staying very well defined, and it's causing quite a scare for people who are hunkered down right now. So let's go to Taylor Petras. Taylor, you're getting in even more videos from viewers sending him into the newsroom. And unfortunately, we are seeing a lot of that flooding on the roadways.
Yeah, absolutely, Corey and Lindsay. This one I just got from Everglades City. And if we take a look at it big here, you could not tell where the yards and the road starts here from all of the water and rain on the roads. We are going to continue to keep getting pictures like this. I have a couple pictures showing some trees snapped in half. So here's one from Marco Island. You see that trunk snapped right in half. I have another big one in the Marbella Lakes in North Naples. Take a look at this one. A large part of that tree snapped right in half. Getting a lot of videos right now from the Bonita Springs area, as that's where it looks like the storm is kind of parallel about to right now. A few people tell me they do still have power. I know my aunt and uncle have a place down in Bonita Springs. I had to go in and bring their patio furniture in for them a couple days ago. They'll be happy to report that the power is still on there. Things are looking good. I've also been told a lot of people are moving out of Pine Island. Anyone who may have stayed overnight, I'm told there was a large caravan of people out of there early this morning as we got new reports of Hurricane Ian strengthening and heading towards Southwest Florida.
And then you would talk about Bonita Springs. One of the things we saw and we see with these storm surge maps, the Imperial River and all the folks around that. So you got to be very careful down there because it goes pretty inland where you see that flooding and the surge from all of that. I believe we have other video coming in here in Estero. If we can pull up this video. This is near the Fountain Lakes community. See some rain. Several cars parked in the parking lot there. It looks like the wind blowing. Conditions overall, though, not horrible in this video from Estero.
And let's move up from Estero down towards McGregor. And this is from a home off McGregor. And here you can see some of the winds really picking up there, the rain. In both these videos, at least when this was recorded, the conditions weren't horrible. But again, some of this, stuff can just stop momentarily, be pleasant outside, but then the wind really picks up and that's when it turns dangerous. And that's when those loose items around the yard we tell you to pick up, that can become a projectile in these high winds. So just be very careful and don't go outside if you don't have to.
And we also had somebody email in saying, can I go and remove my screens? Yeah. Those last minute preparations, they're done. You should not be going outside anymore. Instead, you need to be in your home. Hopefully the shutters are up and you are in an interior room in that home and sheltering in place. And we are either watching the TV and you're seeing the images or we're describing it to you. Let's get over to traffic anchor Belinda Post with a look at a bridge over there. Where is that, Belinda?
Right. So, Lindsay, this is really important to note because it is over the Tampa Bay between St. Pete and Tampa. It is the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, and we just from highway troopers, we learned that this has been closed again because they do not want you out there. Once it hits past 40 miles per hour, it is not safe. If we do have a chance to pull up FDOT2, I just wanted to show you here locally what we are dealing with. Again, look at all that debris that is just across. This is the Edison Bridge. This is what connects North Fort Myers and Fort Myers. Such a heavily traveled area. You see all those palm trees just flying because of those high-speed winds, and yet there's still somebody crossing it. Again, and it looks like somebody's even walking the bridge right now. Guys, just stay off the bridges, especially once you get to those 35-mile-an-hour winds. That's when you can really feel your car moving. 40-mile-per-hour winds. They recommend you totally stay off the bridges.
All right, Belinda, thank you. And being over that bridge, when you walk over that bridge, just in a normal day, the wind can already be, quite significant to kind of throw you off kilter. That wind is just simply dangerous.
I hope that car that we saw was going somewhere quickly and safely and going to be sheltering because we do not want to see people out right now.
And let's take another live look near downtown Fort Myers, our tower cam. And this is very telling, right? Because earlier this morning, we saw the heavy rain. It was coming down. Now we're seeing the wind. And you see how powerful this wind is. And this is along Palm Beach Boulevard. And you can see the palm trees swing in that wind, the camera violently shaking. In fact, sometimes it just goes offline because that wind is so powerful.
And Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt's telling me, let's punch up Weather 2 right now and see what we can see here. Wow. Yeah, look, this is in Matlacha, and as Matt just mentioned, you're getting that negative storm surge where the water is going out, getting sucked up, as he says, and then eventually It's going to come back in. And unfortunately, Matt, those latest updates of the storm surge that you read live on air, not something that we look forward to hearing, but we need to be relaying those because those are very important information. And what was it for Matt Lachey? Matt, what was that prediction for storm surge?
For Matt Lachey, unfortunately, 12 to 18 feet, according to the current landfall location. And for reference here, you can actually see the previous line of where the water level was. It was between the kayaks and the palm tree, and then look at where the line is now. And that is the water getting sucked out from the wind, but then it's going to be going back in full force once this eventually makes landfall.
Yeah. All right, Matt, thank you for that. I believe we have FEMA on the line, right?
Robert Simon with FEMA. Robert, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We know you guys have a lot going on. If we can just talk about, your operation, you guys really come into play specifically after the storm. What are you prepared to do after this storm blows through our area when it comes to just helping people who have a lot of damage or they need somewhere to turn?
Well, yeah, thank you so much for having me and for everything that you all are doing to keep people safe. So I'm here at the Region 4 Operations Center in Atlanta, where we've got over 100 people working with our staff down there in the field to coordinate with the state and local governments to get resources where they need to go. We've got personnel, equipment, supplies, urban search and rescue teams down there ready for immediate response. And they're working really closely with those local officials to keep people safe.
And Robert, we do need to make it through this first, but these preliminary images we are seeing, there's going to be damage and there's going to be a lot. And then after that is when we see so many people who are not officials come in and try to take advantage of a situation. Is there anything, as people are listening right now, you want them to think about? Because, of course, the knee-jerk reaction is to get back home and start to get things fixed. But again, you got to be careful with who you're going and working with.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say first and foremost, people need to be listening to the direction from their local officials in terms of, number one, is it safe to go out? Is it safe to return to your homes? And make sure that you're taking precautions to keep yourself safe before you actually go back in.
Yeah. And Robert, is there any a particular phone number or maybe website that someone needs to, write down or type down on their phone right now that maybe that's how they get into contact with FEMA after this storm?
Yeah, what I would say first is you can certainly monitor our website at FEMA.gov. We also have a FEMA app that's available for download from your preferred app store of choice. FloridaDisaster.org is also a great resource for people to go to receive information. And then lastly, I'd like to say check those local county emergency management websites for more direct information what to do locally.
Is there anything specific? Sometimes we'll see you stage before a specific location in our area you guys have already staged or you plan on coming to right after, and what are you planning on bringing down?
Yeah, actually, prior to the storm, we were working with our partners at the Florida Division of Emergency Management and also the counties in Florida to pre-stage food, water, cots, blankets, tarps, disaster medical assistance teams, support for power restoration. Those sites will be announced, as we get through the other side of this storm in terms of specifics. But again, those county emergency management websites would have the most up-to-date and accurate information on that.
Yeah, and that's important because you're able to mobilize. I remember, I believe it was after Charlie, Lois told me, one of our anchors who has been here a long time, told me, there was like canteens of water that were brought into the streets to help us. When you say bringing different things like food and water, is that how it works? You will deploy to neighborhoods to try to make it a little bit easier for folks to get that assistance immediately or as soon as it's safe as possible?
Yeah, I would say there's a few ways that we go about that. First of all, we'll work. We provide the resources to the state, which then provides the resources to the county. They'll set up local sites, generally speaking. They'll also set up ways for people to call if they've got functional needs they can't get out to actually go get the stuff. So we have a great partnership also with our voluntary agencies that are working there, active in the disasters, who help us with that as well.
And Robert, lastly, you know, when we see these types of disasters, people, you know, get very nervous, they get very stressed, and they get very anxious to go back to their home, or they're in need of some type of supplies. Sometimes, you know, anger gets the best of people. So what is your message to those people who may think after the storm that no one's helping or they're not seeing the response fast enough? What do you tell someone?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say one of our core values at FEMA is compassion, and you'll see that from every FEMA employee that comes out there. Everybody's doing the best they can with the resources they have, and what I would say is, you know, wait until you're told it's safe to return. Once you do return, you know, follow the steps of documenting what your damages are, contacting your insurance company, and stay tuned, you know, with those local officials in terms of how to apply for any kind of assistance that may become available post-storm.
Document.
Yeah.
Very good advice. Thank you. That was Robert Simon joining us on the phone, the FEMA Regional 4 Deputy. We appreciate your time.
I believe let's get over to Taylor Petrus now, who has some new images, satellite images of Hurricane Ian. And boy, I tell you, Taylor, these are some pretty impressive images taken from space.
I mean, we see Wig Doppler 3X behind us, and that looks impressive. But to be able to see it all the way from space really puts it into perspective just how big this storm is. And as it makes its way to Florida, this is obviously from several hours ago when it was way down here and we are tracking it closer. But again, this just gives you the overall feeling of how big this storm is, how far it's going to reach, how many impacts it's going to have across the entire state of Florida, not just here in Southwest Florida. The power outages right now, there are more power outages over on the East Coast right now because they kind of got that early tornadoes that we see with this storm. So they were dealing with that late last night, still dealing with the after effects of those power outages. So again, pretty incredible images to see Hurricane Ian all the way from space.
All right, Taylor, thank you. I think we have some new video coming in that we'd like to show you just to kind of help give some perspective as far as what's going on. So this is some damage in Lee and Charlotte County. Our producers in the back, do we have any specifics as to where these videos are taken?
It looks like, okay, so it looks like Lee County is on the far left here. Charlotte County is in the middle, and then Collier County on the far right. So this really gives you a span of what people are dealing with in their neighborhoods. And so far, I mean, again, these are just the bands that are coming through, causing some of these trees to snap in half, cars to be damaged. Some pool cages also might be damaged from this.
Yeah, and we're seeing a little bit of stuff flowing, or blowing rather, I guess I should say, against the Gulf too, and some of that. But like Corey mentioned, if you are listening to us, the biggest thing I'm noticing from this video, Corey, is the trees that are snapped in half. But I think that's minimal compared to what we are going to be seeing. Let's turn over now to Weather Authority meteorologist Casey Sherman, getting in more images of what folks are seeing out there.
Yeah, and we are beginning to see now that storm surge as anticipated. This is down in Marco Island. Those winds beginning to push in from the south. It's pushing that storm surge in, that water in, into portions out of Marco Island. This was sent in by viewer Dennis, and you can see this now overtopping those docks, now coming onto the sidewalks, where we will continue to see those water levels rise here. As we head into the next few hours, we actually have seen the storm surge forecast increase for Marco Island. This is since earlier this morning, where this entire area was essentially in that orange. We are now seeing this in the red shading, which indicates storm surge potential of over 9 feet. So that is including that center of Marco Island, at least portions of it, for those areas that are closest to the canal. You just saw a picture there of some of those docks. Tiger Tail Beach and down through certainly those coastal areas, we've got these pockets featuring that potential of 9-foot storm surge. In orange, that is 6 to 9-foot storm surge. As we start to see these winds, there's the direction they're currently in, coming out of the south-southeast, and that's what's literally shoving this water up on shore, which is why we're now beginning to see it here as we take a closer look at Collier County as a whole. Heading into about the next couple of hours, Notice where that wind shift begins now. It's out of the south and west. So across areas still like Everglades City, Chokoloskee, and Stillmark Island, you're still looking at storm surge at that point in time. We're beginning to see that out through areas like Naples, Vanderbilt Beach, Pelican Bay, with those winds then out of the south and west, and on through about the 2 o'clock hour. 5 o'clock hour, 5:30, we see more of a component out of the west that continues to shove still that water up against what's mainly going to be that western coast of Collier County, where we still have some ongoing storm surge then for the southern part of Collier County. And that's just how the storm surge projection here is going to go, and the progression of this as the system continues to lift northward with continued onshore flow, even as we head into tonight and the system continues to lift northward. Here's a video, not just our coastal areas flooding, but we also have inland areas flooding. This is from Lehigh Acres, John Trout. That is where near the Able Canal is. We've seen a lot of water in Lehigh Acres lately. Notice on our storm surge map potential, they are too high in elevation and too far away from the coast to experience storm surge, at least saltwater inundation, but they have had a lot of water, and they also have again the Able Canal there. In fact, water amounts for the past couple days ranging between about 3 to 4 and 5 inches in Lehigh Acres and Alva, with heavy bands continuing in that general area at this point in time. So we continue to track these bands, and this is the Winx Live Doppler 3X periphery, which is why you kind of see this circle here. We've got some very heavy bands through areas like Immokalee now, Fort Myers, out through Cape Coral, and also portions of Charlotte County, up through DeSoto County and southern Sarasota County. Here's a wider picture as a whole, with our entire radar network picking up on the center of circulation of Hurricane Ian that is now getting very close to our coastal zones of Sanibel and Captiva. This is the Tampa radar picking up on the winds aloft where the center of circulation is. You can see winds of up to 153 miles per hour is what we're currently clocking in the upper levels of the atmosphere. That's what can mix down to the surface. So we will be looking at the potential of seeing certainly some gusts, I would say as high as 120, 130, maybe even up to 140 miles per hour in some areas as we start to see this eye wall, the most destructive of the winds, approach our coastline. So here is that projected track of the system. It's about 46 miles or so, 45 miles per give or take away from that projected landfall for at least that eye wall. But we're going to start to see this scrape areas like Sanibel first. So if we put a little bit of a measurement on that, about 14 miles away from the Sanibel and Captiva coast. This currently is moving to the north and east as per the latest National Hurricane Center advisory at around 9 miles per hour. So a little bit of a timer on this. We could start to see the strongest of the winds, the eye wall, push on shore to areas like Tween Waters Marina. That's coming up here at about 10:06. The time right now, it's 9:35. So that's about 30 minutes away. Captiva, about 30 minutes away as well. Cayo Costa, Boca Grande, about 30 to an hour away or so. In Bokeelia, closer to about an hour away from feeling some of those the eye wall of this system, the strongest of the winds of Hurricane Ian.
Casey, thank you. Oh, I believe we have some video from Cape Coral that's showing some flooding out there and some damage, I believe. If we can take some of this video. So here you can see, I believe, this is some storm damage, trees blowing in the wind. We don't see too much damage in this particular video. It's still dark out when this was recorded. But I will tell you, a lot of homes in Cape Coral, especially in the north part of Cape Coral, they're built up pretty high because they're on well and septic. So they have this large slope in the front yard, and then it goes to the swale there. And there you see all that water starting to pool in the swale. And the more rain we get, I can tell you, those swales typically get pretty full. So this is going to be a test of how well this water can drain pre the major event.
And I would like to switch over to a live picture of the Sanibel Causeway because we got this camera back. We lost it a little bit earlier.
Oh, wow.
This right now, what you are looking at is the Sanibel Causeway. If you are sheltering in place, because that eye wall, as Casey just mentioned, is approaching Captiva and Tween Waters in the next 30 minutes, what we are looking at is not something we are used to the Gulf seeing. It is white caps. The camera is shaking because of the wind. Palm trees are blowing, but the most telling is that water. And we heard one of our reporters, Claire, who is on the mainland, she's at a hotel on Fort Myers looking towards the island, and she said, one, the whitecaps and the movement in the water, but also the color. We're used to that blue, pristine color, and right now it is very dark, being stirred up and moved all around.
Yeah, and what's so frightening about this is, this is why evacuation orders have been placed, right? Nobody on the roadways, and you see a car going across the causeway. Again, that is dangerous right now because the winds are so high. Let's go to Taylor Petrus. And Taylor, you're getting even more photos into some damage across the area.
Yeah, Corey Sadie from 96.9 Wink FM in the morning just sent me these pictures from the Whiskey Creek area in Lee County. You can see here another large tree limb snapped right off. So that's showing we are seeing some strong winds make their way through Southwest Florida. So she had the tree snap. She also sent me this picture showing the roads starting to flood. We are seeing this all across parts of Southwest Florida, as well as that consistent rain continues to come down. We hear it right now over our heads here at the Wink News studio. I have this video taken not too long ago from the Bonita Springs area. This is specifically from a canal between Gary and Regal Drive. As you can see here, you'll see that wind again whipping those palm trees around. They have to be careful here because they are by a canal. Those water levels could rise. We are starting to see, as we just showed you, them come above the sea level. So again, we're sending these safely. If you're able to do it safely from wherever you are sheltering in place as the storm passes, please feel free to send them in to us. We are getting a ton, and we really do appreciate you. This helps us get a better understanding of what the conditions are looking like outside.
Yeah, and just please do it safely. Let's go to Cape Coral, where we're getting more video in. This was actually a little bit earlier this morning before we got some daylight, and this is at Kismet Parkway in Santa Barbara. This video taken at that time was when the trees were blowing. But again, this was taken a little bit earlier this morning.
Yeah, we have another video of flooding in Cape Coral near Kismet Parkway in Santa Barbara. Actually, this is doorbell camera. And here you can see just how violently the rain is blowing in the wind. And actually, I live in the Cape, and I've been checking my doorbell camera, and it appears that mailboxes are starting to be blown over now in many of the streets, and they may even be actually blowing across the street. Mailboxes, you'll be seeing that out on the roadways.
And we're going to get to Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt in just a second. And while he's walking over, if we want to pull up our live picture from Marco Island, this showing us the conditions, if we can do that in the back, there you go. That's a live image coming in from Marco Island, and you see the conditions there. A little bit lighter than I would say an hour ago. The skies were very, very dark, but the wind is blowing the palm trees and the whitecaps again on the Gulf. Looks like I'm getting the thumbs up. So let's get over to Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt as we are getting new information in about Hurricane Ian.
Yeah, let's first start out with the storm surge and the tide levels. And I just got an update in Naples, and this is going to be, they are right now seeing a 4.5 foot storm surge and rising. Okay, so the blue line is where it would be without a hurricane. The red line is where it is at. You subtract, and right now it's showing about 4.5 feet of a storm surge, but rising. Look at the trend. So storm surge right now of 4.5 feet currently being observed in Naples. However, in Fort Myers, a different story at the moment. The wind is driving out the tide in the water, and the water levels are right now, so the blue is where it would normally be, and the red is where it currently is. Okay, so the normal is about 0.8 feet. The water level right now is 0.3, so it's about half a foot below normal. Now that's going to change quickly as Ian starts to make his approach over the next couple of hours. So here is the storm, and here's going to be the very latest. Let's get you live. Wink Doppler 3X as it continues to rotate. And just throwing this out here, the system continues to show some intensifying, gathering some strength, and it is not impossible if this does become a Category 5. We hope that it does not. But at this point, it's almost irrelevant if it's 5 miles an hour at a 5 or 155 Category 4. This is going to bring a significant and crippling effect to Southwest Florida. This is one of the strongest storms that we have literally ever seen. Retired Chief Meteorologist Jim Farrell literally even noted that this is a storm that in his 40 years here in the state of Florida and Southwest Florida, he's never seen something of this caliber approaching our area. And he's right. The winds will be gusting upwards of 100 miles an hour. We will see a storm surge of at least 10 feet in spots. The official forecast is for 12 to 18 inches. And this is right now, the worst part of the storm. It is closely approaching Sanibel. So I'm going to stop the loop and we will measure how far away the eye wall is. So right now in reference to Sanibel, it's approaching now. It's about 12 miles away. It's pushing north and northeast at about 9 to 10 miles an hour. So time now is about 9:42. We will start to see this within the hour. It's going to start to move in. And this is where it's serious business. This is when the strongest part of the storm is going to start to filter in. First Sanibel, then Captiva, then Pine Island, and then eventually Cape Coral. This is where the winds will be gusting over 100 miles an hour, and it's going to go from 0 to 60 real fast. So I just want you to be mentally prepared for it. And with that strong wind, it will be forcing up the tides very quickly. Very quickly. So if you have ignored the mandatory evacuations for Sanibel and Captiva, and you're still on the island, this is going to be life-threatening. I cannot stress that enough. This is going to be the worst part of the storm, and it is approaching within the hour. Okay? For those who have either evacuated or you live inland, take a deep breath. It's still going to be a long, drawn-out storm for the remainder of today. And what we have seen, these are just kind of the warm-up rounds. The main round is going to be this afternoon. There it is on radar, the eye and the eye wall. But you're in good shape here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you when it's approaching. And when that occurs, we're going to have you hunker down and basically pretend like we're going to be dealing with a tornado on the ground for about 1 to 3 hours. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. Let's do a storm cone. So what I'll do now is project as we go into time when that eye wall is going to be impacting the area. Okay, so the forward progress is at about 9 miles an hour. Okay, so you can see me drawing it. And I'm going to slide it northeast. And that's going to put it at Sanibel, about 10:48. So right now, 9:44. So about an hour. Cape Coral. And very likely they are timing this for Southwest Cape. So I would say within the window of noon to 1 o'clock, we'll start to see the progression of the eye wall. The winds will pick up significantly. Page Field, 12:30 to 1 o'clock. Fort Myers, about 1 to 1:15. And Port Charlotte at 2:04. That is the expectation of the strongest part of the storm. Now, it's been well documented that the structure of a hurricane, you get the worst part of the storm, then we get a break. The satellite imagery has actually shown that there are peaks of sun right now in the eye. Don't be surprised to see some slivers of sunlight popping through as the eye pushes on shore. That would be for those that are directly impacted by the eye. It'll get quiet. You also may see a significant amount of birds. The birds, as they're flying across the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, they actually get trapped in the eye. They can't escape it. And don't be surprised to see some birds flying around. And then once that passes by, you're going to get hit again. And there's the secondary eye wall. And I'm going to switch over now to our velocity signature. It's basically detecting wind. And let's take a look here. I'm going to throw on multiple radars. Let's take a look at Tampa. And within the eye wall, all these various colors, the brighter that it gets, that's the more intense that the wind is. So the pink, and especially the white, that's some pretty serious business. And I would like to sample some of the wind speeds that are right now being indicated on the western side of the eye wall. The current forecast from the National Hurricane Center is an upper end Category 4. Charlie was 150 at landfall. This is a 155. The winds right now being picked up on radar on the western side of the eye wall about 150 to 155, if not 156 miles an hour. A Category 5 wind speeds begin at 157 and above. That is the intensity of this storm. We also are seeing some significant wind not only on the western side of the eye, but also on the eastern side too. And let's take a look. We're also seeing some pretty significant wind speeds on the northern side. And I'll tell you what, those are probably some false echoes. We're going to take a North Fort Myers cam. I tell you what, pop up whatever you guys have in mind, and we'll talk over it. This is the Wink Live Doppler 3X, and then now here we go. Here's a look at some of the wind gusts that have been about 50 to 70 miles an hour that have been working their way across Collier as well as Lee counties. And you see those people driving on the roads? That's what you should not be doing. Strongly discourage. That is not a smart idea, because what's happening is on the bridges, the higher that you go up, the wind speeds are increasing. So at the apex of the bridge, the winds are going to be increasing even more than the surface. If you are listening to me right now, radio, TV, what they are doing, that is not smart. We have literally a Cat 4, almost 5, approaching our coastline. Now is the time to hunker down. You can see the palm fronds, the debris that is already kind of littered across the Edison Bridge and 41, but my goodness, this is what, 10 seconds? Look at all the people on the road. Hey, I tell you what, if you know someone that's driving at this minute, please tell them to either turn around, seek shelter. I can't believe we're seeing this many people on the road. You can literally see, look at the light pole. You get a big gust of wind, that's going to fall on the road. That could literally hit that car right there. And then another thing that, I'll just be quite frank with you, this is live TV, this is stupid. What they are doing right now is not advised, and this is absolutely stupid. We have a Category 4 right off the coastline, huge waves, and they should be hunkering down and seeking shelter. So everybody who's watching and listening right now, you're doing the right thing. You are seeking shelter, you're taking this seriously. This is one of the strongest storms that we have seen in recent times. Please don't be like these people in this live video. Absolutely stupid, considering that we have a major hurricane off the coastline. I hate to be frank, but hey, common sense here. Major hurricane approaching. So let's go back to Wink Live Doppler 3X. We're going to analyze some of the wind speeds. And the wind speeds right now are analyzed at about 150 to 56 miles an hour. And now we're going to extrapolate where that will be going. Okay, so I'm going to throw on one more radar. You'll see a complete picture here. There it is. Okay, and then we are going to show the general location in which this is going to be heading if you're just tuning in and just joining us. So let's show that generally to the northeast. Okay, and this is where I expect the worst part of the storm to go. Okay, so prepare for maximum impact, greatest wind gusts over 100 miles an hour. Essentially, as we take the eye wall, we push it northeast. Englewood, Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, North Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Sanibel, Captiva, and then really, I would say Bonita Beach and north, prepare for the possibility of winds hurricane force and reaching to the caliber of tornado-like winds. These are some of the preliminary wind gusts that we have gotten in. This will be changing, no doubt. Pelican Bay, 71 miles an hour. Isla Capri, 67. Naples, 62. Marco Island, 61. Captiva, 60. Cape Coral, 55. Venice, 55. And we will be getting more of these updates as they come in. So I just want to thank this opportunity for those who are taking this storm seriously. You're inside, you're seeking shelter. Thank you for doing that. With a storm like this, it's just not worth getting pictures and videos and risking your life. Let's take it seriously. You only got one life to live, and this storm is going to bring life-threatening flooding to parts of our area. In the back, where do we go from here? What would you like us to? Where would you like us to go? Okay, so we're going to now punch up as we have more cars on the bridge. As the winds are whipping, you can see the debris that is right now in the road. At least in this vantage point, we don't have any trees that have collapsed or been uprooted, but we will see more scenes like that. Do we have a connection to the Sanibel Causeway? Do we have the Sanibel Causeway camera? I'd be curious to see the status update on that. The water levels were rising, and wow, look at that. Heavy rain, gusty wind. This is live, Marco Island. Now, the palm trees, the way that they are structured, they can take strong wind. They can take some strong wind. So you're going to see it whipping left and right, but compared to other trees, they will be doing just fine in most cases. But that's with a general hurricane. You talk about a Cat 4, Cat 5. I expect several of these to either get uprooted or snap in half. Next one up is Fort Myers Beach. Okay, here's a live look again at the pier. And you can see the waves crashing. There have been some waves when it passed by the Keys, upwards of 30 to 40 feet. And this is nothing for what we're seeing currently. I do expect parts of the pier to be inundated as we go into time, as the water levels rise, and as the winds come in from the south. And these are, once again, I want to go back to Weather 2. Weather 2, you said there are people in the water? Okay, there are people in the water on the right. How about that? Extremely discouraging to see. With the type of rip currents and with the waves, someone's got a death wish. That is extremely ill-advised. Here's a look at some of the huge waves that have been coming in. This is from, you said Diamond Head? Okay, this is Fort Myers Beach. Waves crashing in, wind increasing, very likely tropical storm force. The hurricane force gusts are still offshore. And we will continue to get to these updates. The power outages, unfortunately, have been increasing in the thousands as the winds have been going up. Tropical storm force, hurricane force, but we are still not at our main event. The storm surge levels in Naples right now at about 4.5 feet. In Fort Myers and the Cape, we don't have a surge at the moment. So let me show you those surge levels. We'll punch up Weather 2. So Weather 2, and here's a look at Naples, and here's where we should be without a hurricane. Here's where we are. And we're now approaching water levels that are about 4.5 feet above the tidal norm. And then the next stop in Fort Myers, we are a little bit below normal. That's that wind driving out the water. So Chris and Lois, I think in a bit we're going to go to you. Again, live TV, we're going to be winging it here, but major hurricane approaching southwest Florida as it is going to bring a significant impact as we hit this afternoon. Greatest impact, greatest surge. The winds will be gusting over 100 miles an hour. I also want to show you how this is in reference to the track from the National Hurricane Center. So here is where the track has been. The red is where it is likely to be heading, and a landfall anywhere between Boca Grande as well as Englewood will be possible. But even Cayo Costa, Sanibel, Captiva also has a shot if it pulls a quick right turn at the last minute. But the fact that this forecast is right in the middle of the eye, meaning it's not deviating to west or to east, means that it's still largely on track to make landfall in that general area. The diameter of the eye, let's take a look and see if it has gotten any smaller. The hurricane hunters, very busy. They are flying in and out of the storm, letting us know the lowest pressure and the greatest wind speeds. Let's take a look at how small that eye is. Okay, I'm going to be measuring, okay, and Marissa, I got you back in my ear, just a little heads up back there. So the diameter from west to east is 31 miles, and then from north to south is 35 miles. So that is the size of the eye, about 30 to 35 miles, and there is going to be the strongest part of the storm, where the winds will be gusting upwards of 100 miles an hour. The storm surge forecast,